Hi dear students, welcome to Department of Chemistry, KTHM College in Nasik. So student, in our previous lecture, we studied the water pollution, we studied the various water pollutants, the oil pollution, thermal pollution, pollution due to the pesticides. Now today in this lecture, we are going to discuss about the monitoring technique and the methodologies. First of all, we will talk about the measurement of pH. Measurement of pH. pH is nothing but the negative logarithm to the base 10 of H plus ion concentration. That is the activity of H plus ions. The pH of solution is measured by using a pH meter with the help of a glass electrode, which generate the various potential with a change in H plus ion concentration of the solution. It means that the pH is measured by using pH meter by using a glass electrode, and it generate the potential which varies linearly with change in concentration of H plus ion of the solution in which it is dipped. It consists of a reference solution having a fixed or known activity of H plus ion. It consists of a reference solution having fixed activity of H plus ion. The E cell is calculated by using a formula. E is equal to constant plus RT upon NF, ln of activity of H plus ion of the sample solution upon activity of H plus ion of the reference solution. We call it as an standard solution. In this equation, R is nothing but the gas constant, T is absolute temperature, N is the number of electron, and F is the Faraday. If we substitute all values of the standards, we will get a simple equation. E is equal to constant plus 0.058 plus pH of the solution at 20 degrees Celsius. In this case, generally calomel electrode is used as an reference electrode. Generally calomel electrode or AgCl, KCl is used as a reference electrode. If we think about the procedure, which is a very simple one, procedure. Very first of all, we should calibrate the electrodes. So in the first step, the electrodes are calibrated using the two buffer solutions. One will be having a pH 4 and another one is having a pH 9.2. After calibration, in the second step, the electrodes are rinsed with deionized distilled water. And dried using a tissue paper. Now the electrodes are ready to measure the pH of unknown solution, and therefore in the third step, the electrodes are then dipped into the sample solution and reading is noted. And reading is noted. So in this way we can measure the pH of unknown sample. You just note all these things by screenshot. Now the second parameter is a dissolved oxygen, measurement of a dissolved oxygen. Actually, in our previous case, we studied that the dissolved oxygen is a very important component of the water, because the dissolved oxygen is helpful for the sustainable development and the survival of a living organism. The marine animals and plant uses the dissolved oxygen for their respiration purpose, and therefore it is one of the most important parameter of the water, and therefore during measurement of a water quality, the dissolved oxygen should be monitored. The dissolved oxygen is calculated by using a two different method. One is nothing but the Winkler method. We call it as a iodometric method, and the second one is a electromeric method. The Winkler method, that is the iodometric method, is a volumetric method. It means in this case the dissolved oxygen is measured by measuring the volume of the reagent required during the titration. And the second one, that is the electrometric method. Electrometric method is based on the principle of the diffusion of oxygen through the membrane. Now here, as a part of our syllabus, we are going to discuss about only the Winkler iodometric method. The Winkler iodometric method involves the use of divalent manganese. The divalent manganese, when added into the test sample under the alkaline medium, the dissolved oxygen oxidizes the divalent manganese into the higher oxidation states. It means that Mn2 plus undergoes a oxidation under the alkaline medium, and we will get MnOH twice plus H2O. This precipitate of a manganese hydroxide, when treated with iodide ion under the acidic medium, they gets converted into the corresponding iodine. It means that when the MnOH twice is treated with iodide ion under acidic medium, liberates the iodine, and this liberated iodine is then measured, or it is calculated by their titration with the sodium thiosulfate. So in the third step, the iodine will treated with the sodium thiosulfate, and it will give a corresponding iodide again. Now during this process, the end point of the titration can be observed very easily by using a starch indicator. If we think about the procedure for the determination of a dissolved oxygen, the first step is to take the 100 ml sample in a 250 ml of glass sample bottle. Then the 2 ml 40% KF solution is added. The addition of a KF is to mask the Fe3 plus ion present in the solution. Into that, a 2 ml of 36% MnSO4 solution is added. It means that here we are going to add a divalent manganese. And in this solution, we have to add a 2 ml of alkaline iodide azide solution. Alkaline iodide azide solution. This alkaline iodide azide solution is prepared by mixing a 50 gram of sodium hydroxide in a 13.5 gram of sodium iodide and 1 gram of sodium azide, and these components are diluted for the 1 liter. In the next step, what happened as per as the discussion, the precipitate will be formed in the previous case. The solution is a second and the precipitate is allowed to settle down, and into that precipitate now we have to add a acid. 6 ml of a 12 normal H2SO4 is added into that. Obviously, due to addition of the acid, the precipitate of MnOH twice will get dissolved and it gets converted into the Mn2 plus with the liberation of iodine. Here we will get a clear solution, and therefore in the next step the solution is a shake the mixture till the clear solution is obtained. Now this clear solution contains a iodine, means I2, and this I2 has to detect, means we have to measure the amount of iodine liberated. For that purpose, titrate the liberated iodine with 0.025 normal of sodium thiosulfate solution. Now the burette reading will give an amount of iodine liberated during this process. For that purpose, one equation is used. So 5 ml of 0.025 ml of 0.25 normal of Na2H2O3 is equivalent to 1 milligram per liter of dissolved oxygen. So student, in this way we can measure the dissolved oxygen. The important thing is that the reaction proceed in a 3 step. In the first step, the Mn2 plus is converted into their higher oxidizer form by using a dissolved oxygen in an alkaline medium. This precipitate is then treated with the iodide in an acidic medium. It liberates the iodine, and the liberated iodine is then calculated by titrating with sodium thiosulfate and using an starch indicator, and the amount of iodine is calculated by using equation 5 ml of 0.025 normal of sodium thiosulfate is equivalent to 1 milligram of iodine in per liter. So you just note all these things and we will proceed to the next parameter. Our third important component is the chemical oxygen demand, COD. In fact, oxygen demand is nothing but the amount of oxygen required for the degradation of certain hydrocarbons. There are two types of oxygen demands. One is a biological oxygen demand or biochemical oxygen demand, and second is a chemical oxygen demand, BOD and COD. BOD is nothing but the amount of oxygen required for the complete oxidation of hydrocarbons within a stipulated period of time by microorganism is known as a biological oxygen demand, and the chemical oxygen demand is the amount of dissolved oxygen used for the oxidation of organic matter present in the sample by using a certain oxidizing agent is known as a chemical oxygen demand. In fact, the biological oxygen demand requires a stipulated period of time. Probably the procedure is run for approximately 5 days, and during these 5 days sometime the microorganism may undergo a poisoning, and therefore in order to avoid the such 5 days period of time and the poisoning of the microorganism, rather than the BOD, COD is calculated. During the COD, the organic matter is allowed to oxidize by adding a calculated amount of oxidizing agent. More probably, the potassium dichromate is used in an alkaline medium, in an acidic medium. So, the acidified potassium dichromate is added into the wastewater. The potassium dichromate oxidizes the organic matter present in the water, and the unconsumed, or we can say the remaining potassium dichromate, is calculated by back titration, and therefore now we have all the values, that is the amount of potassium dichromate added and the amount of potassium dichromate left after oxidation, which is calculated by the back titration, and from these two values we can calculate the amount of potassium dichromate consumed. So the concentration of potassium dichromate consumed is equal to concentration of potassium dichromate initially added minus concentration of potassium dichromate, which is determined by back titration. This is nothing but the unconsumed. These are added, this is unconsumed, so that we will get a consumed concentration of potassium dichromate. The potassium dichromate in the acidic medium releases the oxygen, which is depicted in this reaction. It will give the K2SO4, Cr2SO4 thrice. We call it as a chromic sulfate, and the oxygen is liberated. And this liberated oxygen is used for the oxidation of organic matter. Now obviously, from the amount of oxygen is used for their oxidation, we can determine the amount of organic pollutant present in the water sample. Now we will talk about the procedure for the determination of chemical oxygen demand. So obviously in the first step, we will take a 10 to 50 ml of water sample, depending upon the quantity of the sample. We will write the 50 ml of water sample in a 250 ml of stoppered bottle. Now in this bottle, we have to add the oxidizing agent, and therefore add 10 to 20 ml of 0.25 normal K2Cr2O7 in 18 normal of H2SO4. This is nothing but the acidified potassium dichromate, which is used as an oxidizing agent, plus 1 gram of silver sulfate. It is also used as one of the oxidizing agent, and 1 gram of HgSO4. HgSO4 is used to dissolve the chlorides in order to avoid the interference of the chloride. So after that, the solution is a reflux for the 6 hours. During this refluxing, the organic matter undergoes a oxidation. It means it consumes the liberated oxygen. It means it consumes the potassium dichromate, and this consumed potassium dichromate is calculated by using this formula. Now in the next step, what happened? After completion of the reaction, we have to determine the concentration of K2Cr2O7 left after oxidation, that is by back titration, and therefore the reaction mixture is cooled and titrate the excess of potassium dichromate with 0.1 normal of more salt. Now here the more salt used is one of the reducing agent. The more salt is nothing but the ferrous ammonium sulfate, and it acts as one of the reducing agent. So by titrating with reducing agent, the oxidizing agent can be calculated, and the end product of this reaction can be observed by using an ferrine as an indicator. So student, you just note all these data by screenshot. Okay, so in this lecture we studied the 3 important parameters. First one was the pH, second was the dissolved oxygen, and third is a COD. Now in this lecture we will stop here. In our next lecture we will discuss about the more important parameters of the water quality. Thank you.